Hello, and thank you for joining us on another episode of the I'll Try That podcast. It's me, Barbara, and I'm joined very happily today by Joe Druitt. Say hello, Joe.
Hello, and you better be happy about it.
Always. I think when I said very happily joined, I think I meant that you were very happy, and I don't mean to, impress that upon you or project, but it'd be good if you are.
I'm in a very jovial mood, but I'm sat here across the room with my best mate having a beer. What more to enjoy?
It had to be a jovial mood you were in, wouldn't it?
There you go.
Okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, please come with us on a journey to Masham in North Yorkshire. Our pursuit of happiness today centres around Theakston's Old Peculiar. But in, I suppose, what is traditional fashion, we'll have a bit of a chat first about the hop topic, for which I will pass over to jovially mooded Joe. Joe, what's going on?
Well, I'm very happy that you came to me.
This is only episode 2 of this recording session, and we're not that drunk. So, go on.
That's good. All right, so we're talking about, obviously, as we like to do in the hop topic, about the latest beer news, and we're travelling to one of our favourite, I guess, kind of, up and coming / kind of making a name for itself breweries,
Crafty.
Which is Thornbridge.
Yeah,
crafty brew, which is Thornbridge Brewery. So, big news coming from them that their Necessary Evil, which is one of their beers, has just topped the world rankings. So,
okay.
This Necessary Evil is a bourbon barrel-aged imperial stout, and it's been named best flavoured beer in the world at the World Beer Awards. In the world.
Fair play. I mean, if you were making a beer and if they said, this might win an award, what award would you want? Best flavoured beer in the world, he's got to be up there, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I think you've made it quite hard. If you've done pretty well if you've got to the best beer taste in the world, haven't you?
Yeah. I do think, though, to a certain extent, and we have, I was going to say extensively, we have covered imperial stouts on the podcast in the past. Not necessarily the most universally loved within our contingent anyway. But in fairness, for world's best flavoured beer, you're not going to win that with a 4% lager, are you?
Well, this is the thing. Imperial stouts are an incredibly distinctive flavour.
Yeah.
It's not for everyone. So the fact that this beer, being a barrel-aged imperial stout, that has won the best flavoured beer, I have to wonder who's judging said beers.
Well, also with that, because it is bourbon barrel-aged. It just rolls off the tongue, that. And it's what, 13?
Say that 2 times faster. Bourbon barrel-aged.
Bourbon barrel-aged. Bourbon barrel-aged.
BBA.
Bourbon bubbly. Bubbly. A bit of the bubbly. That's a video for another time. And it's 13%, right?
Yeah.
So, and also because we tried, who was the one we tried? Do you remember when we were in Weymouth and Drabbers bought it? And it
was the Goose Island barrel-aged.
Goose Island, that was it. And we've
stout,
we've tried another one in between.
We had one at the beer festival by Double Drop, I think they were called, or double
Big Drop.
No, that's a non-alcoholic company.
I'm thinking of the kind of drops that it can have.
Not sure what you're thinking. No, I think they were called barrel age or something like that, or double barrel or something. So, this is what they do. They make imperial stouts, like barrel aged imperial stouts. And anyway, this is their drop of one. It was delicious for an imperial stout. It's not my cup of fish.
But I kind of am thinking, well, is it just that the imperial stout is just a bit? Is it en vogue or en vogue at the moment?
Yeah.
And that's that's winning the day because it's in a category that the people who matter really like. But this is you want to give these things a try when you hear this news about them, don't you? You want to find out what the hype is.
I think this taps into the big trend at the moment, which is this barrel aged imperial stout. kind of infusing this beer with things from other parts of the world, and from barrels. I mean, we've got a quote here, that we're seeing a lot of different varieties of this barrel aging happening with cognac, barrels, with imperial stouts. We're seeing triple sec and Caribbean rum barrels.
Which actually, tick.
Yeah. Triple sec is quite an interesting barrel to be mixing up with beer. But anyway, all of this, I think what we're just basically seeing is that there is a demand here and people are liking it because they're voting for it in the World Best Flavoured Beer Awards. And they're voting for it by buying these more adventurous beers by barrel aging imperial stouts, basically.
Yeah. I did also see just that there was a comment from, because I did read this on, I think was it Beer Today or something like that.
Yeah.
That Simon Webster from Thornbridge saying necessarily evil, which is the name of it was, I kept reading it and forgetting it was the name. Necessary Evil is the name of the beer.
Yes.
And it's becoming as iconic as Jaipur for us. And I'm just a bit like, I don't know. Well, I haven't tasted it yet, so I shouldn't judge, but I really like Jaipur from Thornbridge. I think it's absolutely wonderful.
But I think they have claimed to make these kind of statements, especially because Thornbridge as a brewery is still kind of an emerging brewery.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been around for a little while, but they're not, that well known. I mean, the fact that you're right, Jaipur is their one for me that I always think about, but that's always because it's always been paired by supermarkets in the curry aisle.
Yeah.
It's like, even having a curry, you have Jaipur, that fits there. It's like, that's not what it's about.
Yeah. It's all right. Do you know, there's a couple of things that I've just actually been confusing myself on. It was Thornbridge who did. We talked about it earlier on in the year, talking about they did their calendar, didn't they? They would bring out a new craft beer for every. Or actually, they bring some back as well.
We're bringing out different casks, wasn't it? Every month.
Yeah, exactly. So that was quite cool. So I got to admire them for that. And they get big tick from Drabbers on the Are There Craft Brewery. Also, sorry, I just did a little double take to myself because we were talking. You mentioned the cognac, triple sec, and Caribbean.
Cast, yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Having an impact. I also, because our pursuit of hoppiness is Theakston's Old Peculiar today, which is very dark. I started sipping it. I was like, I'm not getting this at all. Doesn't taste like it's 13%. Like, no, that's for later. No, put it down. Interesting. And it's
as a little side segue here. We've talked about casks. We've talked about barrels. And my favourite phrase. I was talking with a master distiller for work recently, and I was asking her. She was talking about this how this cask aged whiskey and blah blah blah, and how this cask is so different. And I was like, what is the difference between a cask and a barrel? And she just came back with this little pithy statement, which I just felt was like summed it all up. Every cask is a barrel, but not every barrel is a cask. And I just felt like, whoa.
Oh, there you go. Yeah,
that's good. And that's just ingrained in my brain now, because the barrel is like obviously a broad term for these kind of like things, and cask is the specific one of the barrel.
Yes, that makes sense. I feel like that should be like engraved on some wood and hung over a toilet, something like that.
Well, I know what I'm getting you for Christmas now, Barbara.
Exactly that. I know, like that.
Anyway, I digress. Let's segue into something else which has quite a lot of heritage. Talking about aged wood and fine triple sec, and we'll talk about Old Peculiar.
Yeah. Dubbed the Legend. I feel like I almost need to be in a proper recording studio for that with the Legend.
The Legend. I have a feeling that Drabbers would have a question or thing or two to say about it, but I don't think he'd have anything to say about this. The fact that it's an unpasteurised and cold filtered to protect the truly unique flavour of our beer.
That shows an element of care and consideration to it, doesn't it?
Bloody lootly.
Yeah, and this is what we're calling this is a 5.6%.
Jobby. It's a wee jobby.
It's a wee jobby. They don't sound like this in that part of the world, but I mean, this is an old school.
Yeah. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah.
Old Peculiar. I think it's the iconic. I mean, this is the thing. They refer to it as the icon of craft beer sold all over the world. It's the Legend. So
big talk. Big talk.
Drabbers would be all over the place with this one. He wouldn't know which way is up. But we're talking about Theakston's brewery. Now, we talked about Theakston in a small capacity when we talked about Black Sheep Brewing.
Yeah.
Because that was started by Paul Theakston, which, as you can imagine by the name, he is one of the sons that broke away from Theakston's, the brewery, when they got taken over by, I think it was Scottish in Newcastle, back in the 80s. Anyway, they kind of broke away. Paul broke away and set up Black Sheep. But Theakston's now are still referring to themselves as an independent brewery. So I'm trying to kind of think back about, trying to find this out. Have they gone back to being an independent brewery now, rather than being owned by Scottish Newcastle and enveloped into one of these other much larger organisations now, like a Carlsberg or whatever?
Yeah, okay. But
yeah, I mean, they still refer to T&R Theakston Limited as being an independent family brewing company that was founded in 1827. So, still saying that the company is controlled and run by direct descendants of the founder, Robert Theakston.
Yeah. So actually, do you know what? And I like that. And also, there's heritage there, isn't there? So one thing I would like to direct people to go and have a look at is if you go on their website, though, they still employ proper old school coopers.
Yes,
so
love
like,
it.
There's
we're talking about casks and barrels.
Yeah,
a cooper is.
I mean, and also big, super stacked Ewan is all over the website, and it's like so they actually, the ceremony of putting the barrels together is supposedly something they've been doing since the 14th century. So I mean, they're taking it seriously. And that just shows, it gives them a real edge, doesn't it? I think they're talking about it in all the right ways, and you sort of, I don't know, it's taking me in to the point where I'm going, I can taste it. I can taste that they use a proper cooper.
For anyone out there who doesn't know what a cooper is, do you want to mind me explaining to the ladies and gentlemen?
Am I oversimplifying it if I say it's someone who makes the barrels?
They look up. They are everything about them. Their whole world is the barrel.
Yeah.
That's their world. Is that they work with the iron, they work with the wood itself, and they take care of the casks, let's say, because this is what we're talking about for Theakston's, the casks that the beer would be put into, and the barrels that the beer would be put into, let's say. So I mean, it's obviously a huge area that has died away, as a lot of industries, not just the brewing industry, has moved away from barrels and casks in this traditional manner, or like wood casks and barrels. So everyone's moved. There's a lot of more ingenious, kind of different technologies now being used. I'll tell you, having a visit recently to the Adnams Brewery over in Southwold, and they just had stacks and stacks of barrels on the side, and I was these things that plastic things with like little what do they call it? The when you go into like a it's like a plastic on the outside, and then I want to call it like a smoothie case on the inside, like a plastic. It's like a silver bag on the inside.
Yes.
That would expand as like liquid is poured into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No,
what do you even refer to that thing? I don't know. It's a bag within a bag situation. And basically they were explaining that those are now the modern casks that are used in export and international. So all of is homogenized across the breweries. All of the breweries who ship their beer internationally have to use these like new casks, let's say. Anyway, long story short, it's an example of why the cooperage business has gone away, because also as well traditionally cooperage was only passed down between family members. So you could only become a cooper if one of your family members, like your father or your uncle or your grandfather, was a cooper already.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
And that's just because it was a highly sought after business and a trade, let's say a craft. Now, 10 points. I'm going off on one about coopers here, but 10 points if you can give me the name of the brewery, or not even just brewery, but it is a brewery. I've given you a hint there, but the employer who hired the most amount of coopers in its history, like out of anyone else. I'll give you an example there from Ireland. Give you a clue, sorry.
Okay, sorry. So Guinness.
It's Guinness. You're spot on.
So I was just about to go Theakston's. Too obvious.
Yeah, a little bit. But yeah, so at one point Guinness had over 700 coopers, which is crazy. And having been to the Guinness experience in Dublin, and you kind of go along and you've got all these old timey photos, and they literally had warehouses just full of barrels and people just hammering away, and it's amazing to see actually. But anyway, long story short, I'm amazed actually knowing that Theakston still use a Cooper. Yeah. And they do refer to it as the Cooper, so they must have just the one Cooper.
That's it. Yeah, I mean, that would be a lot of pressure if you were the next man in the job. But are you enjoying it as a drink? This is going to be my next question for you.
Yeah, it's quite different to most of the beers. I mean, we've just come away from a light, refreshing, New World lager to then step into this world. So it very much is that, kind of like brown, dark reddish brown colour.
Yeah, it does just about count as red, doesn't it? I have to shine a light through it in order to see the red, but it's in there. It's very dark, and actually, I think
it is.
I think did we both say that we couldn't think of ever having had it before? So we are almost going.
I haven't. This is the first time I've had it. That's for sure.
And I quite like. I mean, 5.6%. It doesn't feel too in your face, particularly bearing in mind we have just moved on from a lager. I've been told that I'm meant to be getting possible hints of cherry and banana. Yeah. If I really think about it, that's possibly true. Maybe more cherry than banana.
I'm definitely getting malty. It's definitely has an aroma of malts.
Malty AF.
It definitely has a malty one. It's apparently meant to be a lightly roasted malt, but given the colour and the taste, I think it's quite strong actually. It's quite dark. But yeah, it's definitely more for me. I don't get any banana or anything like that. I definitely get this kind of like dark fruit and berry kind of notes.
The rich kind of fruit cakey sort of vibe, isn't it? And I suppose it's more of a wintry brew than in that case.
It's not as cakey, as Christmas cakey as London Pride, though. I would say that still is the Christmas cake of beer world for me.
We've had another one in fairly recent memory, which was not far off that, and I'm kind of trying to think what it was. That's going to really bug me. Was it Abbott Ale? Abbott Ale was just Abbott's. It was like Saurine, wasn't it? I quite like that this isn't quite that far along that route, to be honest. But I did think I read something about where were the hops? I wanted to know about the hops. Challenger, Target, and Fuggle.
Yes, good shout with the Fuggles.
Why have I got a soft spot for Fuggle? Is it just the name?
It's the name. It's also because it's one of the best. The beer cafe around the corner from me here in near where I live is called Fuggles Beer Cafe, which is just great.
Yes. I like that. Yeah, I've always thought Challenger and Target sound a bit aggressive and serious, whereas Fuggle just a great big hug in a glass.
Jovial. I also like, just kind of going back to the wider product. I think Old Peculiar for me is the one that I know of. I haven't heard of any of these other beers that Theakston do. Their Best Bitter, which apparently is their biggest selling beer, that's consumed all over the country, which I've never heard of the Theakston Best Bitter.
That's weird. Yeah,
they've got obviously the Old Peculiar.
Yeah, do you know what I think? Well, I think maybe I have had it, but I just think I know of it as Theakston's. Is it just? Yeah, I suppose maybe is it Theakston's Best, and it just
maybe. All I can see on their website is they've got pint glasses of different coloured liquid, but all with the same Theakston logo on it, and it just underneath there's some writing about what each one is, so you can only tell. They're not like this, they're putting different packaging up. This is the first. We'll get onto the packaging for Old Peculiar in a second, but so there's Best Bitter, Old Peculiar. There's a Lightfoot, which is a tribute to the Lightfoot Brewery, bought by Theakston in 1919, and that's their Blonde Ale. They have a Pale, which is their modern twist on their 1960s heritage beer. And they also have a Barista Stout, which is a beer brewed for coffee lovers.
Oh, crikey.
So
yeah, I'm getting in on a good thing.
Yeah,
it's interesting. I have drunk Theakston's Best Bitter. I think I just know of it as Theakston's. Just we don't get it too much down here. I think they keep a fair amount up north. If that's
I mean anywhere around the brewery is going to be well liked there, isn't it?
Exactly.
But obviously they're Theakston being an established brewery, let's say they've been around for quite a long time. Not only obviously are they making the beer, but they also own pubs. So going up into that Yorkshire area around Masham, there's just a lot of Theakston pubs up there as well. I mean, you can go on their local pint finder and you can find where you can get your nearest Theakston.
Yeah, like that.
And obviously there's a big pull towards Yorkshire in that part of the world.
But do you know what I mean, just to that end, I suppose it's they are. I don't know what this is now. Almost like my meter stick for all these breweries that we talk about. With the exception of maybe the barista one, I don't think these guys are going to rate Theakston and Old Peculiar. I think Drabbers would like it, but I don't think it's going to rate very highly on his craft beerometer, is it?
I think what you'd need to do for Drabbers is you need to pour it out of the bottle, or pour it in, and either pour it into a glass and not tell him where it's come from, or pour it into some jazzy looking craft beer brand and call it a new take on an old favourite or something like that. And then you quite like
it. Neon green flamingo on it. And have graffiti written up the side. I go, mate, try this, and he'd be like, that I like.
It's called the Legend.
The Legend, yeah. Oh, is it named after me? No.
Yeah. Well, talking about how it looks though, so I've got it in the bottle, and it is very unusual to have a clear or PSL label.
Oh, I see.
So the fact that you can look through the whole of the bottle. I mean, obviously it's a brown bottle, which is traditional beer, so they're really leaning into that kind of vibes. It's not it's green or clear.
Yeah, the bottle's not far off the colour of the beer, in my opinion, as
that's it. Well, it's all, I guess, kind of building into this kind of reddish brown, kind of liquid kind of thing. But the fact that they've got see-through labels, PSL labels, is really interesting, actually, on the front and the back. I've never really seen that, apart from the likes of, Sol, where it's all about the liquid colour and it's clear and it's all about shining through. So, it's traditional beer. Although I have just noticed on the side, which I don't quite understand, that apparently Theakston's Old Peculiar is the sponsor of the Old Peculiar Crime Writing Festival.
Okay, that's quirky.
So, for any budding crime writers out there, go and enter this festival.
Exactly. So I know that also the one thing I picked up, weird little fact as well, is just that a lot of people know it as Yorkshire's lunatic's broth.
Oh.
So there you have it. So that's.
I need to know more. I do need to know more about that.
So that's a thing. And it has this kind of agenda. There you have it.
There you go. So Instagram, they have 8,600 followers for Theakston Brewery.
Appreciative
and
noises.
on Twitter for Theakston 1827, which is the Theakston Brewery's Twitter account, they have 6,500 followers.
More than I expected, I'd say.
Yeah. So, I know we've now dove a lot into more detail of the name behind, Theakston, what Theakston's about. I mean, they're saying they're an independent brewery, but the fact that Black Sheep Paul Theakston left them and started up his own brewery because he wants to stay independent rather than the Scottish and Newcastle, I'd love to, find out if that's fully, if the family bought back the business and they now own Theakston's again, which is probably what's happened. But there was a time under a much bigger organisation, and it spawned another brewery, which is obviously doing its own thing up in exactly the same area. So they must be, quite big employers in the Masham area.
Yeah, but I wouldn't hesitate to pick one up though, or particularly if I think probably a little bit for me is also knowing if I was in that neck of the woods, if I was up in Yorkshire, I think then a bit like when you do the Guinness pilgrimage, having something within touching distance of the brewery, I think would be a real treat.
And I'd probably drink their best bitter. Is this their number one beer? Mm-hmm. That's probably the one I'd end up getting. I do like a good bitter, especially a local bitter as well.
Yeah, exactly.
It's going to be good from cask. And that's all we have time for this week's episode of the I'll Try That podcast. And so from me, Joe, Rich,
Barbara,
and Simo,
goodbye. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram,
Twitter,
I'll try that podcast.com,
and watch us on YouTube.
Goodbye now.